Hey there guys, it's Jesse, and I just spent the last couple hours in a pretty awesome debate with fans in the comments, and I loved it. But sadly, having a limit on the words you can type actually sorta hampers the conversation, so I figured I would start us having a real, true discussion this way. Feel free to reply, feel free to post a video reply, feel free to do anything you like as feedback. All I ask is that you act like an adult. If you want, we'll do back and forth like this more often. I'm totally okay with that. You guys were very responsible. No one was like, oh, God, I hate you. And no one was, freaking out about it. It was actually really civil. So what I figured I would do is break down the main points I saw today. They were, 1, by nerfing content, you hurt players' ability to gain the skill needed to raid in high-end guilds. 2, by lowering the normal difficulty when players move to heroics or firelands, they will suddenly hit a difficulty wall. 3, and by making it so hard, it will just force Blizzard to do more nerfs like they did in Ulduar. 4, low difficulty can cause people to get burnt out by running easy content over and over. 5, Firelands only has 7 bosses, all the raiders will beat them super quick, and we have 6 months of this? 6, I've cleared the content, and I'm just mad that some scrub gets to do it easy now. 7, I don't want it easy, I just want it as intended. 8, Blizzard is giving the complainers everything. They just bow down to them. 9, just because they pay for it, they should get to do everything? Alright, so let's go back to the top, and here's my opinion on all of it. 1, by nerfing content, you hurt players' ability to gain the skill needed to raid in high-end guilds. If you're having dreams of becoming a member of a server-first guild, and your main issue right now is that you're concerned you won't have the skill or ability to do that because of old content being made easy, then you have a much further way to go than you think. In MMOs, no matter what the case, the more time you put in, the more you get out. There are only 2 real scenarios I can see here. The first, you're new to WoW or you're just returning. In this case, you have a much further way to go than anyone else because not only do you have to learn to play again, and easier normal modes will help you work your way back into doing that, then you can take that knowledge and use it to do the boss encounters in, say, a heroic, which are the exact same mechanics almost, except a little bit more difficult, which allows you to grow as a player. Thus, you can slowly learn and improve your skill. But to think you can come back after being gone for so long, or be a new player and suddenly get into one of those high-end raid guilds and see all the new content, you're delusional. And the only other scenario I could come up with was that you are a consistent player who values your real-life time more than the actual game, and you play for fun, which is great. If you're concerned about not having the skill to raid properly with an awesome guild on your server, here's a note though. You aren't even going to get into that guild unless you're on, friend status. Guilds need people who play a lot, and a casual player who values real life more than the game is not going to make it into a lot of guilds. Like I said, MMOs are about time played. Number 2, by lowering the normal difficulty when players move on to heroics or firelands, they will suddenly hit a difficulty wall. I guess for this one, I simply have to ask, how is this any different than the leap from heroic 5-mans to raids? Everyone but the best guilds in the world hit a wall when they go to a 25 or 10-man. But you power through it, and you keep dying and dying till you get it right. What would be different about going to an easy normal mode and then going to heroic mode or firelands? Your experience would be like that of any other raid guild out there. You'd wipe, get frustrated, and leave the night angry. But like raid guilds, you'd have to brush yourself off and come back the next day. That's what the challenge is in WoW. You keep pushing and pushing till you get it. That's how this game works. And all they are doing is lowering the difficulty so you can experience this content, get a better feel for it, do the harder versions of the exact same thing you just did, which is normal to heroic, and then move on to Firelands and experience the fun of raiding. Number 3, and by making it so hard, it will just force Blizzard to do more nerfs like Ulduar. But I think what this person is forgetting is that by the time they did the nerfs in Ulduar, most of the guilds who were going to beat that stuff as it was had done so already. All the nerf did was allow struggling guilds to complete the content. So I simply ask, how is this a bad thing? The only thing it could possibly hurt are the egos of the hardcore raiders who just like to feel superior to everyone else. Number 4, low difficulty can cause people to get burnt out by running easy content over and over. This argument makes it seem like the entire game is getting nerfed. It's just normal modes. If that is too easy for your raid, then run heroics. You can switch mid-dungeon. And if that's too easy, go to the next tier of raids. I'm pretty positive you won't get burnt out on easy content then. And let's not forget, overly hard content can burn you out too. For those of you who have played long enough, you remember the Sunwell, and there was a boss there called Muru. And this guy was a pain in the ass to kill. He was really hard, and I was in the best guild on the server at the time. We still couldn't beat that guy, and we weren't alone. He was so hard that most of the guilds who were really, really good couldn't beat him, and people were just giving up and getting frustrated, and Blizzard came in and nerfed it. All they're trying to do here in Cata is strike a balance between those two moments, between it being too easy and being really ridiculously hard. Are they going to be perfect all the time? No. I can think of a lot of ways in which Cata has sucked, trust me, but to draw a line at 4.2 and say that this nerfing is what's causing the game to die is ridiculous. Number 5. Firelands only has 7 bosses. All the raiders will beat them super quick, and we have 6 months of this? Firstly, 6 months. Where does this number come from exactly? You can't say that you know exactly what Blizzard has planned. I don't buy that at all. Secondly, even if this raid had 12 bosses like Cata's initial release, hardcore raiders are still gonna beat it within a month. That's why they're called hardcore. They do what it takes to get it done. It has always been that way. Meanwhile, the majority of the WoW players like you and me are still working through the content. My guild just started working on Heroic Nef, and this is the end of May. It seems to me like the battle lines for this debate are being drawn on some hypothetical situation where we all suddenly gain the powers of Paragon and fly through raids. Or the complete opposite, that we're just all suddenly going to want to go back and do normal BOT again for fun and challenge, and we're going to miss the difficulty. It just doesn't work like that. Number 6. I've cleared the content, and I'm just mad that some scrub gets to do it easy now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of the world. It has always been this way, and it will always be this way. Some people bust their ass for something, and then others reap the rewards. But you were the few who wanted to work so hard for it, or else you wouldn't have done it. Accept the fact that this is life, and appreciate that you got to do something first, that you got to be part of this trailblazing group who did it before anyone else. I don't understand the problem with that. People are always going to follow behind you and get things easier because of what you did. You should be proud because you're leading the pack, not angry because someone else gets armor you had 4 months ago. Number 7. I don't want easy, I just want it as it was intended. This, my friends, is how they intend it. You've had months to do this content. That is no one else's fault but your own. If you did real life stuff or quit WoW for a bit or just started playing, that's your life. You can't blame Blizzard for making changes that appeal to a vast majority of people, but not you. If anything, they're trying to push you towards newer, as intended content that you want so badly. Again, I ask, how is that bad? Number 8. Blizzard is giving the complainers everything. They just bow down to them. Now, before I begin, let me just say, aren't you asking the exact same thing? You're complaining now, and you want Blizzard to change based on your complaints. It's the exact same thing. And then if we look at the whole Blizzard gives everything to the complainers argument, you're seemingly associating a very small but vocal group on the forums that only a small percentage of the WoW population uses anyway with this massive change to the game. I'm almost positive they aren't making changes directly because of them. And finally, number 9. Just because they pay for it, they should get to do everything? Yes, exactly. If I pay for a service, I should get to use all of it. The problem with the argument you're making, though, is that you're making it sound like they get all the content right away. Sure, everyone eventually gets it, but these people who don't have the time to play or are new or whatever, they get the content, but months after everyone else does. Those trailblazers, you trailblazers, you get to see it before everyone else. Nothing really changes. And to say I don't deserve to see something because even though I pay $15 a month like you, but don't have the time to do it, that's wrong. And deep down, I know you know it's wrong. Now, someone said to me, Jesse, imagine this was StarCraft 2 and you bought the game. Should we give you all the avatars just for buying it? Now that right there is a completely different argument. When I bought StarCraft 2, was there any part of the game I could not play? No. Avatars are extras, just like achievements. I'm not sitting here saying just because I pay $15 a month I deserve a special mount or an achievement or a title. I'm saying if I pay $15 a month, I feel like I should have the ability to experience every ounce of gameplay that there is. All Blizzard is doing is making that easier for people. So I'm just going to end with this. I've been playing this game for a very long time. I remember WoW before Cataclysm, before Wrath, before BC, and while we all look back with rosy-colored glasses and remember the good old days of the game, this is how it actually really was. 99% of my server was stuck on Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, and AQ20. Only the top 1% were even in AQ40, and only the top 2 guilds were in Naxx. And the best guild on my server at the time never even beat the 4 Horsemen, let alone saw Kel'Thuzad. Now, for the majority of vanilla WoW, until the very end when I worked my way into that number 1 guild, I was in a struggling MC guild, and it sucked. The raids were long, there was a ton of bosses, and they were really hard, and players lacked the skill to beat them, and this was before Wrath babies. And you know what the majority of the posts were like back then? This game is too hard, fix it, fix it. There was no one to blame our problems on. We couldn't look back and say that previous expansion really ruined the game. There was just bad players. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm starting to think that Wrath babies is an excuse. That people are saying, oh, the Wrath babies are ruining the game for everyone. But guess what? Maybe there are just some bad players out there. Maybe this game is hard. And maybe you don't want to admit that you need Blizzard's help to beat the content. And if we look back, even Blizzard admitted they made a mistake with Naxx, with only a small fraction of the millions of players ever even stepping foot inside. And that's why they released it again in Wrath. Blizzard gave us hard content, and people complained. If I were a developer looking back at Naxx, I would think all those man hours and no one got to see it? What the hell was the point of making that? Blizzard just wants to create content that everyone can enjoy. Otherwise, what would be the point in making it? Yes, I realize that sounds incredibly fanboyish, and for a long-time viewer, you know that I don't defend Blizz all the time. But this time, with nerfing old content, I just don't see how that's bad. If you disagree, I would love to hear from you. Maybe we can keep the discussion going. Anyway, thank you for listening, being polite and considerate to all your friends and fellow gamers, and I'll see you again in another video.